It was a calm evening in Washington, D.C. The White House had settled into its usual late-night routine when President Donald Trump sat in the Oval Office reviewing intelligence reports. Suddenly, his chief of staff, Mark Reynolds, entered with urgency. "Mr. President, a military officer wishes to see you. She's different." Trump looked up. "Another briefing?" Mark shook his head. "Not exactly. She's the oldest active duty officer in the U.S. 60 years old and still leading missions." Trump leaned back, intrigued. 60 and still serving? Impressive. A moment later, the doors opened, revealing a tall, commanding woman. "General Evelyn Carter," Mark announced. Trump extended his hand. "Welcome, General." She gripped it firmly. "An honor, sir." And so, their conversation began. Trump gestured to a chair. "Have a seat, General Carter." She sat, her posture unwavering. "Sir, I've served this country for over 4 decades. I've led soldiers in combat, buried friends, and seen victories turn hollow." Trump nodded. "You're still serving at 60. Why?" Carter exhaled. "Because my mission isn't finished. Soldiers need leaders. If I leave now, who takes my place?" Trump studied her. "That's dedication." She gave a solemn smile. "Dedication comes with a price. I've missed birthdays, lost friends, and spent Christmases on battlefields. Every morning I ask myself, was it worth it?" Trump leaned forward. "And your answer?" Carter's gaze sharpened. "Always." Trump folded his hands. "You've sacrificed a lot." Carter nodded. "Leadership isn't about glory, Mr. President. It's about responsibility. When soldiers look into my eyes, they need confidence, even when I have doubts." Trump sighed. "The burden of command." Carter smirked. "You'd know about that." Trump chuckled. "Different battlefield, but same weight, I suppose." Carter's eyes darkened. "When you send people into war, you carry their lives with you. Some never come home. Others return. Different." Trump's expression turned serious. "How do you live with it?" Carter's voice was quiet, but firm. "By making sure their sacrifice isn't wasted." Trump leaned back. "Any regrets?" Carter's jaw tightened. "One." Trump raised an eyebrow. "Tell me." She exhaled slowly. "A young Marine, 22 years old. His name was Michael. He looked up to me like a mentor." Trump listened intently. He was bright, brave, the kind of soldier you'd bet your life on. "I promised his mother I'd bring him home." Carter's voice wavered. "I didn't." Silence filled the room. Trump finally spoke. "That's a heavy burden." Carter nodded. "I see his face every night. That's why I stay. To make sure the next generation has leaders who don't break their promises." Trump observed her. "You're strong." Carter chuckled, shaking her head. "Strength isn't just standing tall, Mr. President. It's carrying the invisible weight no one else can see." Trump nodded. "People see power, not the struggles behind it." Carter's expression softened. "Exactly. My soldiers see a leader. They don't see the nights I sit alone, replaying battles in my mind. They don't hear the names I whisper in prayer." Trump sighed. "The world doesn't appreciate its warriors enough." Carter met his gaze. "We don't do it for appreciation. We do it because someone has to." Trump sat back, contemplative. Trump shifted in his chair. "You said you're here about the future. What concerns you?" Carter straightened. "We need to prepare our troops for modern warfare. The battlefield is changing. Cyber threats, drone warfare, AI. These aren't future problems. They're now. Trump nodded. Agreed. Carter continued. We need stronger training, better technology, and leaders who understand both strategy and humanity. Trump tapped his desk. You're saying leadership isn't just about tactics anymore. Carter nodded. It's about adaptability. If we don't evolve, we lose. And in war, losing isn't an option. Trump leaned forward. What do you suggest? Carter smirked. A bold plan. Trump folded his arms. Let's hear it. Carter took a deep breath. We need a leadership reform program, one that bridges the gap between experience and innovation. Young officers are brilliant but lack battlefield wisdom. Veterans have wisdom but need to adapt to modern warfare. Trump nodded. So, mentorship? Carter smirked. More than that, a structured mentorship program that pairs seasoned leaders with younger officers. We need real-world training, not just simulations. Trump considered it. That could change the military's future. Carter's expression hardened. It has to. Wars aren't won with just weapons, Mr. President. They're won with minds prepared for every possible outcome. Trump tapped his desk. You're thinking beyond combat. Carter nodded. Yes, sir. The biggest war we're fighting right now isn't just on the battlefield. It's mental. Our soldiers are struggling. Trump frowned. You mean PTSD? Carter's voice softened. More than that. Anxiety, depression, isolation. We train them to be strong, but don't teach them how to carry the weight of what they've seen. Trump sighed. That's a problem. Carter leaned forward. If we don't invest in their mental well-being, we're failing them. A strong mind wins wars. A broken one doesn't. Trump exhaled. What do you need? Carter met his gaze. Action. Trump studied her. You've seen it firsthand. Carter nodded. Too many times. I've watched young soldiers break under pressure, seen battle-hardened warriors lose themselves after war. Trump's expression was unreadable. What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do? Carter's voice dropped. Telling a mother her son wasn't coming home. Silence filled the room. Carter clenched her jaw. That moment stays with you, every single day. Trump finally spoke. You carry them all, don't you? Carter's eyes darkened. Every soldier I've lost, every promise I couldn't keep. Trump nodded slowly. Then let's make sure their sacrifice means something. Trump leaned forward. I want real change. Tell me exactly what you need. Carter's eyes burned with determination. Funding for mental health programs, leadership mentorships, and a system that ensures no soldier is forgotten after service. Trump considered. You're asking for a lot. Carter's jaw tightened. Because they deserve it. Trump sat back. You know, I've met a lot of generals. But you remind me why leadership matters. Carter smirked. Sir, leadership isn't about titles. It's about never turning your back on those who trust you. Trump nodded. Then let's do this right. Carter extended her hand. Trump shook it. Consider it done. Carter leaned back, exhaling. This isn't just about policies, Mr. President. It's about culture. We need a military that values its people as much as its strategy. Trump nodded. And you think this program will do that? Carter's eyes were steady. I know it will. Soldiers don't just need orders. They need guidance. Leadership isn't barking commands. It's setting an example. Trump tapped his fingers on the desk. You've been leading for 4 decades. Ever thought about retiring? Carter smirked. Retirement is for those who feel their mission is complete. Trump grinned. And yours isn't? Carter's voice was firm. Not even close. Trump studied her. What keeps you going? Carter's expression darkened. The ones we've lost. Their voices don't leave me. Trump leaned forward. You carry them with you? Carter nodded. Every single day. When I wake up, when I close my eyes, they're there. Their sacrifices push me forward. Trump sighed. I imagine that's a heavy weight. Carter met his gaze. It is. But I'd rather carry it than let their memories fade. Trump was silent for a moment, then said, You're the kind of leader we need more of. Carter smirked. Then let's make sure there are more like me. Trump tapped his desk. Let's get this plan moving. Carter nodded. I'll draft a proposal. We need funding, training structures, and personnel dedicated to making this work. Trump gestured to Mark. Get my military advisors on this. Mark nodded and left the room. Carter exhaled. I never expected this meeting to go this way. Trump raised an eyebrow. Why not? Carter smirked. Most politicians listen but don't act. Trump leaned forward. I don't make empty promises, General. Carter nodded. Then I'll hold you to that. Trump grinned. Good, because when I commit to something, I see it through. Carter folded her arms. There will be pushback. Trump leaned back. There always is. Carter's voice was serious. Some people don't want change. They see soldiers as assets, not people. This program threatens that mindset. Trump's expression hardened. Then they're the problem. Carter smiled slightly. That's why I came to you. I needed someone willing to fight for this. Trump nodded. Then consider this a fight I'm ready for. Carter extended her hand. Then let's do this, sir. Trump shook it firmly. For the soldiers. For their future. Carter nodded. For the ones who never made it home. Trump studied her. What do you want your legacy to be? Carter's face softened. That I made a difference. That when my time is up, I leave behind soldiers who are stronger, smarter, and more prepared than I ever was. Trump nodded. That's a powerful goal. Carter sighed. Legacies aren't built by words, Mr. President. They're built by actions. Trump smirked. That's why we're taking action now. Carter chuckled. Then maybe, just maybe, we'll change things for the better. Trump extended his hand once more. Carter shook it. Let's make history. Trump nodded. Together. Carter glanced at the clock. I've taken enough of your time, Mr. President. Trump shook his head. This conversation is worth every minute. Carter exhaled. I've spent 40 years making sure no soldier gets left behind. But I need to know. When I'm gone, someone will continue this fight. Trump met her gaze. I give you my word. We'll build this program, invest in our troops, and take care of those who serve. Carter's eyes softened. That's all I needed to hear. Trump leaned forward. And you? What's next for General Carter? Carter smirked. There's still work to do. Trump leaned back. America needs more leaders like you. Carter chuckled. America needs leaders who don't forget who they serve. Trump nodded. That's why I won't forget this conversation. Carter's expression turned serious. The strength of a nation isn't in its weapons, Mr. President. It's in the men and women willing to stand up and fight for it. Trump exhaled. And those willing to lead them. Carter smiled. Exactly. Trump stood. Then let's make sure we never take them for granted. Carter stood as well. That's the kind of leadership that changes history. Carter adjusted her uniform. It's been an honor, sir. Trump extended his hand. No, General. The honor is mine. Carter shook his hand firmly. I'll be watching this program closely. Trump smirked. I expect nothing less. Carter nodded. Then I'll hold you to your promise. Trump's voice was steady. And I'll hold you to yours. Keep leading, keep inspiring. Carter gave a rare smile. Until my last day in uniform. Trump watched as she turned to leave. She walked with the same strength and purpose she always had. And he knew. Leaders like her only came once in a lifetime. As the door closed behind Carter, Trump sat back in his chair, deep in thought. Mark Reynolds entered. Sir, your next meeting... Trump held up a hand. Cancel it. Mark hesitated. Cancel? Trump nodded. I have something more important to do. Mark frowned. And what's that, sir? Trump stared at the door where Carter had just exited. We're building that program she talked about. No delays. Mark blinked. You're serious? Trump's voice was firm. Dead serious. We take care of our soldiers or we don't deserve to lead them. Mark nodded. I'll make the calls. Trump smiled. Good. Let's get to work. Months later, General Carter stood on a military base, watching young officers train under a new mentorship program, the one she and the president had discussed. A sergeant approached. General, this program is changing lives. Carter smiled. That's the goal. Her phone buzzed, a message from the White House. General, the program is officially approved. Welcome to the future of leadership. DJT Carter smirked. She had spent her life fighting battles. But this was her greatest victory. As she watched the next generation prepare, she knew her mission was far from over, and neither was America's promise to its soldiers.